Welcome to another episode of Create a Life You Love to Live, the podcast. Today's episode was definitely a beautiful one. Our guest today was Graeme Ford, who is a therapist and the founder of ManAligned Men's Work. We talked a lot in this episode, and Graeme really did a good job of being vulnerable, but at the same time sharing his story. We talked about his childhood trauma, his emotional suppression, utilizing busyness and alcohol as a way of escaping what he was feeling. And we also discussed the breaking points that forced him to confront the pain he had spent years avoiding. You know, a lot of times our trauma and our experiences when we're younger end up getting suppressed inside of us. And if we don't have the tools to deal with these situations, then we find other ways of coping with it. And what stood out the most for me in this conversation with Graeme was really his honesty around what it actually takes to heal. Not just intellectually understanding your patterns, but actually learning how to reconnect with yourself emotionally, physically, and with the relationship with yourself. We talked about therapy, men's work, identity, self-worth, discipline, validation, and what creating a life you love to live actually means when you've had to rebuild yourself from the inside out. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation with Graeme. Let's get into it. Where I kind of want to start, and maybe we can just like take it back to, you know, when you actually realize that something in your life needed to change, right? You like things maybe were starting to fall apart. You knew that you were not on the right path. You know, I'm curious, like, if you can bring me back to that specific moment, is like when you knew that the way you were living needed to change.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love this question. I don't think I know. I'm a 44-year-old Caucasian male living on Treaty 7 territory here in Western Canada. And about 10 years ago, man, I started to remember, I'm going to use that term loosely, a secret that I'd been holding since childhood that I wasn't, in these kind of like traumatic rememberings. They're not linear, right? They're fragmented, very much in the same way as like a plant medicine journey, maybe having a message is very fragmented. There's no A to B. There's no like, I see this. What's the cure?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And, whether that's through breath, I know you do a lot of breath. That was kind of the beginning of like the recognition of something needed to change. But the precursor to that was years and potentially decades of like something doesn't feel right, and it didn't matter how much money I made, where I went and lived, who I was in partnership with. None of that mattered. There was just something that was like, didn't feel right. Kind of felt like,
Yeah, what was
for
that?
those listeners at home,
What was that feeling?
yeah, what was that feeling or
That
what was,
no, what was the feeling that you
yeah,
were kind of going through at that time? That sounds like it was a consistent feeling that, you know, you were carrying with you.
yeah. It was a feeling of like on edgedness, I guess is the best way I could say it. And the way I dealt with that in my life at that time was excessive busyness. So as long as I can numb it by doing, then we're good, right? And then that became alcohol and other choices. But it was like almost you could call it like a high vibration, but it wasn't a high vibration. It was like a continuous kind of like rattling or scratching, just like fuck, there's something not right. Like there's something not right. I don't have the skills, capacity, bandwidth, friends to figure out what that is, but I do know there's something not right. But if I keep going, shit will be okay. Right. And this is often, as we were speaking to earlier in these podcasts, kind of being like a hero's journey. If we go to the old stories, that's essentially in different terminology, what happens to most folks on a hero's journey. They keep going. You get a sense that things aren't right. They keep going until they can't. And for me, what it looked like to can't was essentially like my whole world kind of closed down, bro. Like emotionally, I couldn't function.
Yeah.
My ex-wife she was there, but not being fully met. I was feeling guilty about how I was being with my son. And then all these other things that I was doing kind of stopped. And then it was, as our friends, the Wu-Tang Clan say, I against I, you know, there's nowhere else to go. So it's like
Okay.
you and the, yeah.
So who would like if you had to look back on it, who would you
Mhm.
say you were? Like how were you showing up? Because it sounded like a lot of this was happening internally, but you weren't exactly sure why. So who was that? Who was Graham back then? Like who was that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. So back then I was a man who was constantly in movement, bit of a people pleaser to a degree, but
Hmm.
constantly in movement. My biggest fear in life at that point was to be alone with myself, which is actually a immature expression of being abandoned, like feeling like you're abandoned. So,
Well,
you know,
back
I can trace my childhood back to that, but
yeah.
it was like,
What
yeah,
were,
I
what,
was
what,
always,
were- what were you afraid of exactly there? Or maybe if you can't even pinpoint it, but obviously now you can, you can put some context around it. You've done a lot of work to understand it. But if you had to go back to that time, like what do you think you were ultimately afraid of?
oh, for sure, man. Yeah. So let's give a little context. I'm a therapist by trade, right? And I run ManAligned, which is a global men's work organization. I do a lot of work processing
Yeah.
guys. I'm so grateful to do that. In my own experience, as a child, I had some experiences of sexual and physical abuse, and all of those happened in a silo, right? Of being alone. So as I grew into a man, it was like this whole piece of if you're really busy, if you know a lot of facts, if you travel the world, you'll never be alone. One of my gifts that my father has given to me is he's a fantastic storyteller. I can tell stories like it's going out of business, bro.
Yeah.
Right now, right? Right, Jared? We've had some good stories. And
Yeah, no, you're a fabulous facilitator for sure.
so, thank you. And if we go back to one of those old quotes, it's, you know, in the garden of our wounds is where our greatest gifts grow, right? So why did I learn how to tell stories so well? Well, because when I was a little man, I had to fucking tell stories. I didn't have to. I wasn't asked to. But if I told the truth about what was going on, guess what was going to happen to me? My friends were gone, bro. They were going to get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
the big X kind of trouble. So what that meant is I learned this skill to be able to keep people near because if I was alone, that would revert me back to when I was 5, 6. And when I was alone, 5, 6, it felt good and it felt terrifying. So there was a miscommunication in my body within my soma that was telling me being alone is terrible. And I'll give your listeners this fact. So about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, me and my ex-wife separated. And it was amicable. It was beautiful. But that meant my son would go live with her for a little bit, teenager at the time, adult now, and come back and live with me. And we had a dog. The dog is my best friend. And when they went to move out, brother, they moved all the stuff and I came back to the house. This house I'm in now. And I remember looking around the house. No wife, no son, no dog. I've I've always had a challenge with addictive behaviors in the last kind of 5, 6 years. So alcohol is kind of my piece. So
Okay.
what did I went and I bought a big bottle of alcohol. And I walked in and I said, I'm gonna die. This is gonna happen. I'm alone. I'm gonna die. So I prepped everything. I, did the stuff needed. I chugged a bunch of alcohol. Then for some reason, thank you God, I found some weed
Okay.
and I smoked a joint. And I woke up to my tub half full, knife sharpened on the side of it, and I was alive. It's crazy, right, Jared? That's crazy.
It's very crazy. Yes.
I was so certain being alone that I would die. Could not be alone, bro. Could not.
And this was like you're saying 5 years ago, right? And
Yeah.
you're 44 now, so it's fair to say like you've been carrying that weight for almost 40 years before. Would you feel like this was your tipping point? This was the boiling point where everything kind of came to fruition, and you're like, Was this the moment that you were like, I need to make a change. I need to take this like serious?
I think I had moments before that, brother, but that
Uh-huh.
was the moment where I was like, no more fucking around.
Right.
I've got to take care of me, right? I've got
Yeah.
to take care of me. Nobody's going to make my smoothie. Nobody's going to pat me on the back. I have an army of brothers who I love who will reach out. I have a beloved who will reach out. But here's the thing, at the end of the day, if I don't do the push-ups don't get done. I don't do the push-ups because you tell me to
100%.
do
We,
push-ups. I
we,
might be motivated, I'd say, Jared's
oh,
doing push-ups. I got to do push-ups.
so the one of the quotes that standed out for me, whether it was a quote or a statement, and I forget who actually said it, but it stuck with me is basically we have to take responsibility for our own life. No matter what's happened to us,
Right.
right? Or what we've done to others, no matter what the outcomes look like, we still have to take like it's our life. We are responsible for it. Yeah.
Gift, man. It's a gift, right?
Is it?
My
It is a gift.
my brother Kevin Walton always says this, like, we have three responsibilities in life. And for him, they go very much in this order. And I believe this as well. And it might resonate, it might not with listeners. But the first is to that who created you. And it's not mom and dad, actually. Source, it's God, it's spirit, whatever you want to call that. So how are you paying homage to that in a daily practice? Maybe you pray, maybe you listen to a song, doesn't matter. The second is to self. How am I treating myself? What are the words? What are the actions? What are the behaviors? And the third is to all my relations, all my relationships, all my relations. How do I show up there? And within that, there becomes this piece of, and this is why men's work, in my experience, and community work is so important. Someone who is not accountable to anyone but themselves will always bend their standards. We always will. You ever woken up, Jared, and said, fuck, I got to go do some push-ups this morning. I got my workout.
Of
You look at
course.
the clock and you go, bro, I can sleep another 10 minutes. We've all done it.
Of
Right? I was like,
course.
fuck, man, I'll do my workout tomorrow. I'll do a double workout tomorrow.
100%.
Here's the thing. If like dangerous people, in my experience, are only held accountable by themselves. When you're held accountable in a greater web of community,
Hmm.
you're no longer dangerous because this is what happens. You call me at, you're 2 hours ahead of me. You call me and you say, hey, bro, how's the workout? I'm laying in bed. I'm on my phone. I'm scrolling. I'm like, yeah, the workout.
I totally, I
You know?
100% can align with everything you're saying. It's self-discipline is the biggest form of self-care. And it's also sometimes the most challenging. And everything you're describing, I've been through that this week. I've been through it
Yeah.
last week. I just created like a piece of content around this whole notion of day one, of how we're always starting over. It's always day one. The whole notion of it is that it's okay. It's okay if you miss a day. It's okay if you're stuck on your phone scrolling. It's how you show up, and it's
Yeah.
how you kind of just again take responsibility for how you're showing up. And everything you're sharing, I'm definitely aligned with. But I'd like to bring it back because when I asked you if that was your tipping point, you did say no. There's been other moments in your life where that was your tipping point, or that was the moment where you felt like something had to change. What do you think enabled you not to change? Like, because it sounds like you've had different moments, and you've been carrying this weight obviously for a long time. So, what do you think was keeping you back from really stepping in and being like, yeah, I gotta take care of myself now.
Uh, Two things, brother. And I think this is what stops most people from acting on their tipping point or their kind of signs that are showing up in their life. Comfort and validation.
Okay.
Validation being people reminding you, hey, bro, it's going well. Like, cool, the paycheck's coming in, all this stuff. Comfort being, hey, I have a space to be in this. I like to say it's freedom and liberation over comfort and validation. Freedom isn't easy, bro. Liberation isn't easy. In
Now,
my
elaborate on the context behind freedom and um,
Yeah,
liberation.
and liberation. Yeah. So freedom and liberation to me is stepping into that self-discipline, that's freedom. On the other side of discipline, there's actually freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Liberation is stepping into the things that you've always wanted to do that you're unwilling, or you tell yourself through the validation that you're currently receiving, you can't do. I want to make $1 million this year. There's literally very few things stopping you from doing that. There's steps to making that happen, 100%.
Right.
There's discipline involved in making that happen, absolutely. But it's kind of like when we were children, and I'm going to say the proverbial we, people said you can do anything you fucking want to do in the world. Crazy statement, but it's actually true. What they forgot to tell you is it requires bravery and dedication, discipline, and devotion.
Okay.
Me and you, bro, if you want a
I, I,
fucking,
I feel you.
yeah, you want a six pack? If you want a six pack, let's just say you're a fit guy, but let's say you're like, you saw that picture on the internet and you're like, oh my God,
No, I understand. Yeah.
guess what it requires? Discipline, dedication, and devotion without
Yeah.
fucking around, without fucking
Okay.
around, right?
I get that. So let me go back to what you were saying too about comfort, because that really kind of stuck out for me in the sense that when you say comfort, because I can relate to that, and you mean it. I'm assuming in the regards that whatever you're going through is comfortable, and it doesn't mean that everything is going amazing, but you've created a comfortable existence that's kept you safe, and to break free from that means you're going to have to become uncomfortable. Is that in the lines that you were referring to?
100%. And what I would say to that is that a large amount of folks, both who I work with, myself, and just friends, have a not misogynistic, but a masochistic kind of like they enjoy pain in the way that there's this belief that kind of exists in a subconscious way for a lot of folks in North America that is particularly for men that states this: it needs to be hard. You deserve it to be hard. It's supposed to be hard. Here's the fucking reality. Life isn't meant to be hard, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually meant to have ease and joy and freedom within it. But so many of us have been programmed for so long that it needs to be hard.
Is that what you feel like's happened to you? Do you feel like you were conditioned and programmed that way, that you felt
100%.
everything
100%.
had to
Yep.
be hard for you?
100%. I
Mhm.
grew up in rural Alberta, right? Kind of the old boy style was like, just man up and do it. Get her done. Oh, you don't have enough money? Work harder. Here's the reality that's being exposed today. It's not about making money paycheck to paycheck or hour to hour. How many folks have you seen who literally put up videos online about something cool and they're making tens of thousands of dollars within an hour's worth of work? For me to say to people of our previous generations, you can make tens of thousands of dollars in an hour, they'd say that's impossible. No, it's not. It's actually not. It's happening today. It doesn't have to be hard, bro.
Well, I think it also doesn't have to equate to even making $10,000 an hour. I think it's about understanding who you are authentically and,
Mhm.
like, again, the life that you truly want to live and what that actually looks like and what that's aligned with. Because
Mhm.
going back to what you're saying about this conditioning and how you were brought up and things that were instilled in you, it may result in certain programming that you think you have to show up a certain way, but that isn't
Mhm.
technically the way you are being true to yourself. And when you can kind of remove those layers, right, and remove those masks, if you will, and come back to your true self and come in alignment with that and go on that path, it won't matter how much money you make or don't make. It'll just matter if you're in a true alignment with yourself, and then that's where the ease can come into play.
You know, I worked in my previous life before therapy, before teaching. I was a social worker and spent a lot of time in hospices. So with folks who were at the end of their life, whether they were children,
Okay.
and number one thing I would hear when I'd be sitting there, families would come in, Sometimes there was a priest, there was doctors. Number one thing I would hear from patients is this when they would receive the, hey, you're going to die or this is happening. They'd say the following two things. One, can you make it not hurt? Two, I wish I had more time.
Hmm.
Why did they want more time, Jared? They wanted more time to live from this and not from this,
Yeah, exactly.
not from their head,
Yeah.
right? Because it can be a really terrifying existence to go, how do I make money? How do I do this? How do I provide all these things? But the reality is, and you even see it in social media, if people are authentically being themselves and relating authentically, that's where there's connection. What do we all look for as people? We're born in relationship, only ever wounded in relationship, and only ever healed in relationship. And what that tells us is that connection is actually the vital force.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. It's just interesting that you said you even see it in social media because I think that can be skewed in so many different ways. What you think is authentic and real, sometimes the curtain gets kind of open, then you see behind the scenes, and it's not what you expect. But
100%.
I think it's an interesting aspect to look at because nowadays there's so much social media
Mhm.
and there's so many different ways that these algorithms are like tapping into what our interests are and feeding you more of that. So you really got to be careful of like who you're following, who you're looking up to, because you ultimately don't know like what's real and what's not. But if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is just bring it back for a sec.
Yeah, yeah.
You said so many interesting things, but at the beginning you were saying how that breaking point, how or you were living a life that you had all this uneasiness, right? And you knew that like something was off, and you shared more of your story to give some context around that. But if we can, let's just bring it back there because I'd like to get to a point where it's like you said, okay, you had to start taking care of yourself, right? And you were living with like all this uneasiness. So like first question is like what was it like living with all that? Especially not being aware of, I would imagine at the time, why you were feeling this way or where all this was coming from. Or maybe you did have some awareness around it.
It was exhausting and it was busy, bro, because that was my medication to it.
To
Was,
keep busy.
yeah. Busy. Mm,
And it was exhausting. You were tired
yeah.
a lot. Were you, were
Oh, yeah.
you, were you, you said alcohol was your vice. Were you at that point, were you using alcohol a lot? Like, were you,
No, no, not at all. It wasn't until I started to remember that I started leaning on alcohol because it was an influx.
I,
And the busyness couldn't handle all the influx. And if we think about alcohol as a substance, alcohol is very much it's a mothering kind of piece, right? It'll warm you up. It'll put you to bed, it'll pass you out. So for a lot of folks dealing with that substance, I invite them to look at like a feminine wound or feminine wounds in their life. It's different than other vices. The most common thing I see with anyone I work with is their kind of way of dealing with whatever that unease is excessive busyness.
okay.
Working crazy hours, doing a million things.
But avoiding the emotional pain that's like
Um,
stirring up inside of you.
um,
So you're keeping busy, you're feeling all these feelings and stuff like that. So what was the next step here? Like, is this before you even met your wife, or is this during the time?
During the time I met my wife,
Okay,
I went to therapy. I
okay.
learned maybe
So that
the
was your first. That was your first like tactic into dealing what you were going through with therapy.
totally. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
I
you.
was, and I learned a little bit more of the context behind what I was feeling, and then it got real bad, right? And I always tell people this in therapy: it gets worse before it gets better, 99% of the time.
Worse because you have to face what you're going through like head on, or also because you have to talk about it.
Not because you have to talk about it. I mean, there's somatic therapies. There's many different therapies. It doesn't have to be talk therapy, but it's now you're going to bring it from the unease right? Maybe living in your heart, living wherever, into the forefront. And then it's like, now I have nowhere to go. And that's when, for a lot of people, their structures they've put in place, excessive busyness, whatever it is, those fall away because now it's right here. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know, Jerry. You play hockey growing up?
I did not actually. My son's
Okay.
playing hockey though. I could probably relate.
Yeah. Perfect. So, Canadian podcast. So I'll just give this metaphor. So when you're playing hockey, you might be out playing a game and you might have a player who really has your number. They're always kind of whacking you, going for you,
Yeah,
touching you, hitting you, all this stuff. And you can play. We can play. But at one point, whether it's in that game or a future game, there's going to be a moment where you're going to go face to face with that guy. Might be a fight, might be in a scrum in the corner, it doesn't matter, but you're not going to be able to go anywhere. They're going to be looking at you and you're going to be looking at them. And it's in that moment that it becomes, there's nowhere else for me to go. Now I need to face this.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's what happens in my experience for anyone who's at a tipping point. The tipping point becomes there's nowhere else to go. I can't go, man.
Hmm.
And, in my experience, I'd wake up and go, okay, now I know this.
Yeah, yeah.
The awareness precedes choice. And then it becomes a decision of, well, what do I do after this? Because I can't get this guy out of my face, man. He's right in my grill. You know what I mean? Like he's right fucking here. So I have a few choices, right? I can push. I can say, leave me alone. I can skate away. I can have a fight. It doesn't matter, but it's not going away.
Exactly. Yeah, it sits with you until you decide to do something about it. And in your case, you said you did the therapy, you started with therapy.
Oh yeah. And it wasn't
Yeah,
it wasn't a linear line, right? Like as we both know, healing isn't linear, right? It was
right.
like,
Agreed. But I'm curious, did the therapy work to some extent?
yeah, it worked to some extent, for sure. Like it brought awareness, right?
Okay.
And then it was like, okay, cool, what do I do with this? Right. And for me, and I would say the majority of people, the first time you're faced with that, it's not make the right choice. It's I'm gonna numb it harder. Right. And that's where I
Okay. And
came into that.
that's what happened to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was like, well, if I numb this shit, maybe it'll go away. Oh, no, it won't.
Did you continue with the therapy as well?
Yep. Oh, yeah. 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 For
Okay.
sure. It inspired me to become a therapist. The reality is like, here's the thing, man. Even though we're born in relationship, we're wounded in relationship and healed in relationship, our healing, in my experience, is really, it's something we have to start. We have to start. We have to say, okay, I'm stepping through that gate.
There it is, the responsibility again. You're bang on.
Bingo. And then there can be many supports once we've started, right? And
Yeah.
there can be men's groups, therapy, blah, 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 all this stuff you can do. There can be dedicated push-up plans. It doesn't matter. But it's like that's on you at the end of the day. And here's the challenging part to it, in my experience. Men and women and children don't step to that on their own because you can't. Because the demon in the under the bed, whatever, the
Yeah.
monster in the bed is actually too fucking scary. That's why you've been suppressing it. So you need someone with you there while we go look under the bed.
Yes.
After you look under the bed and you go, oh shit, it's actually just a scary cat or whatever,
Hmm.
then you can start implementing it on your own, but you can't do that just on your own. And here's my evidence of that. If you could, no one would be messed up in the world.
Yeah, if you could, you definitely would.
That's
But
it.
but like you said, so I just want to call this out because yes, show you what's under the bed, but sometimes that can also contribute to you going on a deeper path. And in your case, for example, you said that's when the alcohol really started to kick in. So yes, you're introduced to it, but then it's like okay, level two, right? Now I got to face it, and now you're open to these other kind of vices, if you will. Do I just
Yep.
want to face it head on? Am I ready for that, or no? Right? Do I need to go to something else to help kind of what's the word? Kind of ease the pain, right? Like be able to take away some of the pain. So as you were continuing this journey, you're going to therapy and stuff. I guess during that period, you're going through this with your wife, and then like you said, at some point, you guys separated, and then you had this kind of epiphany where it was like, okay, I got to level this shit up, and like I got to take. Is this kind of the right path?
Yeah, I mean, I would say not everyone has to do it that way.
No, no, I'm just talking about you.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, yeah, there was, I don't know if it was an epiphany, just a realization where it's like,
Yeah,
all right, bro, like no more, no more fucking around. And like, who do you want to be in the world? And who are you when no one is watching?
yeah, I love
That
that.
was a really powerful point for me where I was like, I'm this person outside, but who am I when no one is watching?
That's such a powerful statement. It's another one that really, really resonates.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, like you said, when you wake up in the morning, no one else is watching you. Sometimes it's easier just to hit that snooze button or keep scrolling. But ultimately, it's going to start weighing on you and you're going to have to make a decision and choice.
Yep.
But was there, so in these moments, so you're having these like what the fuck moments, right?
Yeah.
And you're doing the therapy. Was there other modalities? Like, were you starting to explore anything else besides therapy that helped contribute to your own healing journey?
For sure. For sure. Like men's work came into my life just before that.
Okay.
Ceremony, prayer is a big one for me. It's providing gratitude to where it is we're at in whatever way we're here. Somatic based therapies were super effective for me, sound therapy, but just always coming back to, with me, the abandonment wound of just being like, I'm safe in my body, right? Inner child work is a big one.
Of
I'm
course.
safe here, you
Oh,
know?
is there any, like, throughout all this work that you're mentioning, these beliefs, like, was there any beliefs that really stand out to you that you identified, that were created based on your past that you knew you kind of had to let go of?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And there's still beliefs there. I think, a big one for me was like, I'm a bad man, right? I'm a bad man. And if you ask anyone who knows me, they'll tell you that's the farthest thing from the truth. And then I've heard that and I've received that, but it's could I embody that? Could I actually embody that and recognize like that's not true? You know, I think in a lot of ways, whatever beliefs people hold about themselves, if you want to know what the beliefs are that you hold about yourself, you look to what am I suppressing? What am I suppressing on the daily? And a kind of simplified way to do this is to ask yourself when you're numbing, whatever you're numbing, whether it's on a phone, whether it's through alcohol, whether it's through a substance, whether it's through excessive busyness, ask yourself, what am I numbing right now? I'm not enough. I'm whatever that thing
Yeah,
is.
so let me just pause on that for a second because I get what you're saying. I can relate, and I've been through that within my own journey. But for a
Mhm.
lot of people, like if you were to ask me that as I was going through my own healing journey, if you will, that wouldn't be an easy question for me to answer. Like, like I know when you ask it now and you present it, yeah, it sounds amazing and it sounds like an easy question maybe, but it's not. Like, especially when you're going through it. So, like, how does someone actually figure that out as far as like what are you suppressing? Like, how do you identify those things?
Well, I'll put it back to you. In your own healing journey, how did you like to suppress? How did you like to numb? I'll say that. What was your numbing technique?
My numbing technique, it definitely changed throughout the years. Cannabis was a big one. I wasn't a big drinker. I did
Perfect.
experiment with other drugs.
So let's go with cannabis.
Okay.
So let's go back in time. All right. And let's say you're about to sit down and roll your joint. All right. Or pack your bong or however you did it. If I were to ask you now or then, why do I want to smoke this joint? So I would argue that you'd probably say something like this. I want to relax, big day. Those are actually justifications. But if we go under that, So you had a big day, stress at work. Why do you want to smoke this right now? What you'll find is there'll be a reason for rolling that joint. And it's not actually that I'm tired, I want to relax. Something underneath that. Today at work, I was compared to someone. I felt like I wasn't being seen, whatever it is, whatever it is. There can be a myriad of things there. So if you go to that, that's actually what you're suppressing.
But even as you say that, and I think, okay, even myself as an example, and as soon as you were saying this, I'm picturing myself in a specific location in a
Yep,
specific time in my life. I
totally.
would never have thought like I wasn't being seen or, I wasn't enough. I would probably just think like it was almost like second nature. You know what I mean? Like it was just that that vice that you would go to, almost like an escape from the actual reality
Totally.
you're living in.
The vice you would go to when what came up.
Well, that this is my point, is that it just became habit. It became like a ritual almost to not, I guess, have to feel what I've been so consistently feeling. But at the time,
Mm.
I would never have known what that was. Like it was just like habit. It was just like I'm doing this because it's allowing me not to feel this, but now I can kind of enter this other realm.
Totally. Totally. And it's actually, it's actually a, I just want to be clear. It's a brilliant way to not feel whatever that was. So my question would be this: what is it that you didn't want to feel? What is it that you didn't want to feel? Because only you know that.
Right. So looking back on it, it was more I didn't want to, it was like I didn't want to feel like the life that I was living, if that even makes sense. Like I didn't
Yes.
want to feel like the years and years and years of all of the trauma and the experiences that I went through that were living inside of me, suppressed so deep inside of me that at the time I didn't know what was happening, but it was like you said, it was like this weight that's just like living, and it's just like you're feeling it, but you don't know why. But when you smoke or you drink or whatever, it kind of like it masks that feeling away, and you can live for the next hour, 2 hours, or however long that is without that kind of feeling.
Mm.
Yeah.
And those are the feelings that we need to bring up. And at a tipping point, those are the feelings that
Right.
can no longer be hidden.
Right. You have to be willing to face them. And okay, so you started doing the men's work, and I think the question that I asked you was, what was that belief, and that you were a bad man. That's what you said. Now,
Mhm.
throughout this process, how would you describe like the person that you were becoming? Like not just like the beliefs that you had to let go of, but was
Mhm.
there like a transitional moment here when you started realizing, okay, like I'm actually letting go of that version of myself. I'm facing this stuff, and now I'm moving into this new chapter. Or maybe
Mm.
you're still going through that to a certain extent, but I would imagine
Mm.
there's like a transitional point where something shifted.
Yeah, I think all of us are always going through that process. We're kind of constantly like snakes. We're constantly in a state of shedding our skins. For me, it felt very uncomfortable, felt very new, it felt very foreign, and it also felt like a returning to self and home. I never thought I could be the man who I am now, but I've also faced that existence throughout my entire life. I've never thought I'd be the person I am now until I get there. In regards to a transitional experience, I think for me, it was the beginning of finding ease, finding joy, finding like just a gratitude for myself to be alive.
Okay.
That was fun.
Did you start to like change like how you started seeing yourself? Like from the person that you were versus the person not that you are now, but as you were going through that, like did you start to see yourself
Uh,
differently?
yeah, I think I did. I think I did. In a lot of ways, I think I saw myself or started to see myself as someone I could trust, someone I loved, someone I cared about.
Okay, so that's like
Yeah.
even that right there, like that's must have been a big shift, I would imagine. Like, did it also become easier?
Yeah, life became to flow with more ease, for sure. And I was just more appreciative of who I am, and all my faults and my all my brilliance. I became less self-deprecating, less mean to myself, and more compassionate.
Oh,
Uh,
that's powerful. Like just even
yeah,
that alone. And
yeah.
since this, let's just call it this transitional part of your life, have things been different, or do you find that things still challenge you?
Oh, things still challenge me for sure. I think we could ask like
Yeah,
myself, Jesus, Buddha, you know.
for
Anyway,
sure.
like there's always going to be challenges, right?
So
It's how do you meet them?
yeah, that maybe that's a better question. Is
Yeah,
it different now in how you handle those challenges?
for sure. For sure. It's less depreciation and less like you've done this wrong and more like, hey, you're learning, right? It's kind of that growth mindset in a lot of ways, followed with hand in hand with compassion around like you're doing your best, right? I remember I remember right around this time, pre-transition and post-transition, I used to tell ex-partners, my ex-wife, my son, I'm a safe guy. I'm a safe man. I'm a safe man. I no longer tell them that because they can feel it, the difference,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
It's, Jared, how old is your youngest?
He's 9.
9. Perfect. So right around when my boy was 7, up until 7, I did what I thought all dads do. And I would put him to bed and I'd say, buddy, you know how much I love you. You know how much I love you. And he'd look at me and he'd be like, yeah, dad.
For sure.
And a mentor of mine was staying over at my house one day. And I said, hold up, got to put the son to bed. Right? He's like, all right. And he was in the next room, but he heard me say, hey, bud, you know how much I love you? My son looked at me and he said, yeah, dad. And I came out of the room, tucked him in, and my buddy came up, my mentor came up, and he said, "Who the fuck are you asking a 7-year-old if he knows how much you love him?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean, bro? You obviously don't have a 7-year-old." And he said, "Why don't you ask him how much? Can he feel how much you love him?" It's weird. So my boy now is 20, thank God, alhamdulillah. And I say that to him. I say that to my beloved. Can you feel how much I love you? And sometimes it's yes. And sometimes it's no. I say, bud, what do you mean? You can't feel how much I love you? Can you tell me about it? Well, dad, you said we get pizza and you brought home frozen pizza. I'm pissed. I thought we were getting Domino's. Okay. That's when we're actually speaking from our heart resonance. That's what authenticity is. It's not asking someone, hey, dude, you know how much I love you? Well, hold on. Let me put me in my head. Yeah, okay. Can you feel how much I love you? Let me check in with my heart. I
Mhm.
feel safe with you. I feel loved with you. I feel upset with you. All that's welcome. All that's welcome. And then it becomes a question. Can I ask that to my younger self? Can I ask that to myself? You feel how much I love you. Yeah, I can.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Asking that to yourself and being able to self-reflect on it.
Yep.
That is a powerful exercise because you're right. We do that probably with most of the other people in our lives, but
100%.
why not do it with ourselves? That's a beautiful, beautiful statement there. I think,
My beloved will check me, she'll
yeah,
say, I'll say, we'll be on a road trip and car has a fucked up thing and gas is too expensive and blah, blah, blah. And we'll sit down in the tent at night and we'll say, I love you so much. And she'll look at me and she'll say, I don't feel that. So what do you mean? Let's talk about it. And
yes.
the day when the tire went, thank you. I'm not beating myself up about it, but I'm like, this is how I'm showing up.
Well, exactly. And I think that's the mirror that sometimes we need to have placed in front of us because we can say we feel something or say that we love someone, but if we're not showing up that way and they're not receiving it that way, it's a totally different context. And
Mhm.
a lot of the times, like we go back to our childhood, we are casualties of those childhoods, and that is the exact reason why. Because our dad or our mom tell us that, yeah, we love you, but we're not feeling that. And I think, like from my own experience, I know my parents love me without a doubt, but I also know my dad was a very challenging man, and he went through a lot of things on his own. And as much as he loved me, there was a big period of my childhood where I didn't always feel that. So I really appreciate what you're saying, and I think that's an amazing exercise for anyone to take into their life.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's now bring it back to where you're at now, because we've put a lot of context about the past, what you had to go through, and your kind of transition. So how are things going for you now? Like, how would you describe your life now, basically compared to where you were at before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My life now, I mean, there's challenges. There's no question, right? But there's an ease and a fluidity to it where I can just meet what's coming up, just meet it, see it, assess it, and make my choices backed on what I'm assessing, what I'm seeing, and how I want to meet it. Is that in alignment with my values, with my truth, with my core? And I would say there's more ease, but what I would say is that doesn't remove conflict or challenge, right?
But are you still like, is that heaviness? Is it
No,
still? It's not.
no, no.
And would you say that's a testament to like the therapy and the men's work and the ceremonies and all the work, even the struggles that you went through, even the alcohol, even, the circumstances with your wife, and your boy, like having to move out, like all of those challenges that you went through. Do you feel like you needed to go through all that to get you where you're at now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it comes back to what we were speaking to before, which is like, having different experiences for sure, therapy, men's work, ceremonies, prayer. But
Yeah.
then it's the discipline and dedication of putting that into practice. Like, no one, a healer I've worked with quite a bit in South America always told me, like, it's time to get off the toilet. The real work starts now. It's not in the ceremony. It's not in
Yeah.
the ceremony.
Right.
Ceremony might expose things, but it's not in that, right? It's my beloved might expose things within me, parts that I can't see. But it's then how the fuck do I show up every single day? And when I'm out of alignment, do I have a community of folks I can call for accountability?
Do
Yeah.
you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have
So
many, many folks in my community.
yeah, so which is amazing. Obviously, I would think a lot of people are not in that situation, and maybe even once upon a time you were not in that situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But how do you know? Well, one, how do you know when something is aligned or not aligned?
Feel it in your body. Feel it in your body.
You have to trust your instincts, trust
Yeah.
I guess, the feelings that are coming up.
Yeah. Follow your intuition. See if you can hear it, and then follow it. Second, track what's happening in your body. Am I getting more tense? Is my heart rate increasing? Is it lowering? What's going on? The third thing is, how do you build community? It's fucking terrifying because, yeah, I didn't always have a community. It's stepping into experiences, in my experience, that always feel like you don't want to step in. You don't want to. Fear is an invitation, right? If we go to any old story, it's
Right.
an invitation. So,
Fear.
for example, we had I had a brother come through here on the weekend. Big, hulking brother. Big into the gym. He's a gym guy. And he passed away. And I went to the gym today when I found out. And I said to my gym buddy, today we're going to do bench press. I'm not a big guy, Joe. I'm not a big bench press guy. And so we're doing sets. My max is normally 45 pounds a side, something like that. And I said, I'm going to do a workout for him. and I ended up doing 85 pounds a side. That's almost double. Okay. Why? I was fucking terrified, Jer. I was terrified. I was like, I'm going to put this on my neck. Right? This is where I die in the gym. This is so crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
Like,
had my other brother there who's like, I got your spot. If you want to do this, you can do it. The fear in my head was saying, no fucking way. That's an invitation. Why was I doing that? As a way to honor my brother who had passed away, who would love to do that. He'd do that as a warm up.
yeah,
Be like, gee, don't even come over to this side of the gym. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to honor him in a good way. My fear was telling me no. Why do I step into experiences or events where I don't know who people are? And the fear tells me, the flight's too much, all this shit. Because I know there's medicine on the other side of that. This is where we get away from comfort and validation, and we go to growth and liberation.
100%. Like, and this is going back to what I was saying about that comfort zone that we create for ourselves, especially when things are going so, let's just say, rough or bad. You're comfortable in that scenario. I'm comfortable smoking that weed. I'm comfortable feeling the pain. I'm comfortable isolating myself, right? I'm comfortable. But what happens when you break free from that comfort and you step out of that, like you said, it's growth, right? It's liberation. It's stepping into your power, right? But we can't do that if we're keeping ourselves confined to this little bubble that we've created for ourselves to keep ourselves safe. It's amazing the way that you kind of break it down. So okay, so tell me a little bit about like what you're up to now and the work that you're doing, because I feel like a lot of everything that you've shared, your pain, your childhood, the work that you had to go through was a big catalyst, I believe, for what you're up to now. So I think it would be a good way to kind of put it full circle as far as like, yeah,
For sure.
what you're up to and what you're doing now.
Yeah, brother. So I founded a men's work organization called ManAligned, men's work, and we're
Mm,
a Canadian-based organization. We're global at this point. We run experiences and events for men, and we're based on 3 pillars, which are the following: play, depth, and adventure. So we go into the woods, we do all sorts of wild things, we play a lot, and there's a large aspect that's depth, right? So we do a lot of deep process work with individuals and with groups, right? And you might have experienced some of that at Man Camp.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a near and dear part to my heart. That's something I love to do because the cold hard reality is this: men are dying who don't need to die. Hard stop. A lot of them are dying because they have nowhere to go, bro. Because that weight is too big. And here's the reality: just because you carry it well doesn't mean it's not fucking heavy. A lot of men learn how to carry shit very well. That doesn't take away from any of the weight of it. So if we can provide spaces and places where men can take a rock out of the backpack, if you know what I mean,
Yes.
what that does is it allows them to carry that weight in more of a straighter way. So that's really, in large part, what I'm dedicated to. I'm a therapist by trade, so I
Right.
work with individuals, and a lot of it is doing that depth work. A lot of folks come to me in therapy, I don't know why, but whether they're referred or they just randomly come up, I get a lot of this, man, we've done a lot of depth. And we do that with play, right? Like we bring that through with play. There's a pendulum there. It's breath in, breath out. We're following our body. But what I know to be true with a lot of folks attending therapy is this: you ever boiled a pot of water? Any of our listeners ever boiled a pot of water? Before that, there's little tiny bubbles that show up on the surface right before it starts bubbling,
Right.
right? That is essentially what I see in 95+% of the global population. We're all walking around like this right before we boil over, right before that moment.
Yes.
And the boil over might just be getting cut off. It might be having an argument with your beloved. It might be a whole bunch of different shit. Doesn't matter what it is, but it's like, can we provide reprieve in that?
I believe so.
You know what the heat is. You know, what's the
Yeah.
heat?
I believe we can, and you know, just to touch on that, because there is tools out there. Obviously, therapy is one of them, but beyond therapy, breath work, for example, and
Yep.
not just breath work, but being able to tap into the awareness around, okay, I am being triggered. Why am I being triggered? What's the trait in this person or behavior that's actually triggering me? And what does that say about myself? But be able to utilize your breath and be able to understand your nervous system and be able to tap into that can be an amazing tool to tap into in real time. So when that bubbles start to boil, you don't have to go to the tipping point, right? You don't have to
100%.
go fully boiled, if you will, right?
Yep.
And get fully kind of triggered. You can contain yourself, you can handle the moment in a more disciplined way by tapping into your breath and by using these other tools and stuff. And the whole notion of like this conversation, this is what it's about, is about sharing these modalities that are out there beyond therapy. Therapy is obviously an amazing one as well, but all the therapies, you gotta be willing to try them, try like different ones to find the one that works best for you and to be
Totally.
able to utilize those tools to help yourself go through this journey. And like you said, like you don't have to go through this alone. Like whether you're a man or a woman, if you're a man, there's your organization, there's other men's work out there, and there's lots of support if you're willing to, I guess, take that first step, right? If
Yep.
you're willing to step out of that comfort zone, if you're able to face that stuff that you need to face.
100%. And it's, it comes back to if you're feeling nervous about it, that's the invitation.
Right. That's how you know, okay, this is it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, when you're younger or even not, like when there's someone that you're attracted to, there's someone that you like, right? And you feel it. You feel that in your stomach, you feel the nerves because right? This is something you're interested in. You know that there's something there and you got to step to it. It's no different. Your body can signal you in many ways, for the good and for the bad. Yeah,
100%. 100%.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do I still want to ask you? Let's say it like this. If someone is listening right now and feels stuck, right? What would you tell them? If someone feels like they're disconnected from themselves, maybe they're stuck, maybe they are in that spot where like they know they've been through a lot, they feel that heaviness. What would you tell them?
Mm. You're feeling stuck. If you're in a car, I'd say pull over. If you're at home, I'd say walk to your washroom. Say put a timer on your phone for 2 minutes and close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and then open your eyes and just look in the mirror at yourself. And at the end of the 2 minutes, tell you to close your eyes and then open them, grab a piece of paper and write down everything you saw. And that's where I think you start. Start asking yourself about those things you saw. I see pain, I see joy.
Take some responsibility. And I love it how you, again, we tapped into the breath. The breath is so powerful. It gives you the opportunity to drop out of your head, to just drop into your body. And I love the notion of looking at yourself in the mirror, and I know you do a lot of this work around like eye gazing and how powerful that is, even with yourself. So that's an amazing invitation. And hopefully, yeah, hopefully it helps someone who may be in that spot.
And if you're feeling escalated or agitated, as he said, hand on heart, just deep breaths, man. Deep
Yeah.
through the nose, longer exhale through the mouth. Let's just bring you back into regulation and see what you see. But the reason why I use the mirror in that example is this. Most people avoid, and this is myself included, what's really inside. And that's an experience to say, whoa, there's some pain in here. There's some sadness. There's some grief.
Yeah, agreed. It's important to be able to feel that and sit with that. From my own journey for a lot of years, I felt that and I knew kind of where it was coming from, but I was doing a lot to kind of mask that feeling. And I'm not even talking about the cannabis anymore. I'm talking about
Yeah,
tools like meditation, like ice baths. Like I found other vices that, on
totally.
the outside you're like, oh, okay, those were helpful modalities and tools, but they can also be vices to help mask what's really going on. It wasn't until I was really started to feel comfortable in the uncomfortableness of facing that. And similar to yourself, it was plant medicine journeys that took me there. But
Mhm.
through that process, when those things started to come up, it would enable me to sit with them. And I'm not talking 20 minutes, I'm talking like could be 3 weeks that I
Yeah.
would stay in that cycle. But the work that I did in that 3 weeks and coming through was so beneficial to my overall journey because it was truly processing and now allowing me to accept what happened, to offer compassion, to offer forgiveness, and to let go. So you're not still hanging on to that. It's such a
Totally, man.
yeah, it's such a beautiful process. Okay, so just to cap it off, what does creating a life you love to live mean to you now?
What is creating a life I love to live mean to me now? It means steadiness. It means alignment. It means focus. It means compassion.
Mm,
Those are the four things it means.
beautiful. All right, Graham. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you opening up and being so vulnerable and sharing your story. It's been an amazing experience. I appreciate you.
Oh, yeah, bro. Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for
man.
having me on. We'll get all my contact stuff. I'll drop it here. We can put it in the
Yeah,
or whatever. And yeah, just super honored to be here. And I hope if anything resonates or sticks for a listener, know that that doesn't come from me. That comes from all my mentors. And anything that doesn't stick, that's just from my ego. So and drop whatever else.
yeah. I don't think, honestly, I don't even think you have to put these quotes on everything, if you will. I think it does come from you. It comes through you, right? And like, even though, sure, you're mentored by people, you learn from people, but you're also channeling through your own experiences. And being able to find gratitude in the past challenges that we've been through. And I'm not saying you have or you haven't. We didn't bring this up with you, but I know from previous episodes that I've done this, and even from my own experience of going through trauma and doing things to others, having things happen to myself, being able to find gratitude of going through those experiences to who I am now, I think is it's part of the journey, right? It's like we're like a vessel, whatever our learnings are, good and bad, it's like for us to be able to channel it through us and offer it to others. I don't think you should ever have to put any, limitations on like what you're saying. Amazing, Graham. Thank you so much for being here, sharing with us, and being open and vulnerable. We're going to drop your links down in the description, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.